Tonight on Joy News Prime, Ghana records 8 more COVID-19 related deaths despite significant decline in new cases. Meanwhile, health officials in the KJB district have been explaining why they can't track and trace COVID-19 as they used to.
Almost every day receive calls from communities. You have to follow up, pick their samples, take it to home. So in a month, the district spent close to about 7,000. Main challenge we have regarding the fight of COVID in the district.
It comes even as the Ghana Health Service is criticized for significantly slowing down testing.
Number of providers.
So in this bulletin, Community Water and Sanitation Agency moves in to avert threats by small towns water supplies to sabotage government's free water scheme over unpaid bills for the first phase of the initiative.
Number of providers are just taking advantage and trying to provide figures that are not justified. Today is the last day that they will submit the.
And later in the bulletin, Electoral Commission now puts the total number of registered voters at almost 17 million, but can see some foreigners and minors found a way to get their names onto the electoral roll.
As a commission, we are determined to put in place and ignite all mechanisms available to us to clean the register and rid it of all unqualified persons, i.e.
And in business,
marginal increase in transport fares pushes July inflation rate to 11.4%.
This is the lowest inflation, month-on-month inflation, that we've recorded during the COVID phase, which means that we have returned to the pre-COVID month-on-month levels, which we have an inflation figure of 0.5%.
And businesses all over the world are revising the way they service their clients as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The oldest profession in the world doesn't want to be left behind. We'll hear a lot more about how the pandemic has taken a toll on her life and her line of business. My name is Ejisu Murder, and Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our studios in COCOBOD here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Many thanks for choosing us. It was a curse to compile a credible database of Ghanaians of sound mind who are at least 18 years of age. The Electoral Commission had argued at the Supreme Court that using the Ghana card and passport as proof of identification will ensure a credible electoral roll. After 36 days of registration, though, the EC on Tuesday conceded some foreigners and minors managed to get their names on the electoral roll and among the 16.9 million persons who have been registered. It has, however, promised to fish them out. There is more in the following report.
Provided by the EC shows that females form the majority with 51.73% of those registered, while male registrations stand at 48.27%. Chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, says the exercise has been successful.
We commend all of you highly for your interest and participation, which made the exercise a success. The experiences and accounts shared by our numerous stakeholders indicates that the training afforded to our temporary officials was effective. The efficiency and professionalism of our field staff, coupled with the robustness of the registration kits, contributed to the high number of registrants we witnessed today. On average, we recorded 150 registrants per kit per day, as compared to previous registrations where we averaged some 80 persons per kit per day.
She revealed there are minors and foreigners on the electoral roll.
The Commission is mindful of the infiltration of foreigners at a number of our registration centers. Additionally, we are aware that a number of minors have found their way into the register. We are confident that the challenge processes initiated at all districts throughout the country will unearth these illegal persons and rid the register of those who do not qualify to be thereon. We are confident that the register that would be used for the 2020 elections will be a wholly owned Ghanaian enterprise, reflecting qualified Ghanaians and Ghanaians only.
The Commission says it intends to remove such persons from the role through the pending challenge cases.
Away from the Electoral Commission, there are renewed attacks from the camp of the governing New Patriotic Party directed at the former President John Mahama in what seems to be an attempt to remind Ghanaians about events that happened under his government, from the creation of over 1 million jobs to the proposed monthly allowances for assembly members. Vice President Dr. Bawumia has been questioning the ability of Mahama to deliver on all recent promises he's been making. He's been speaking today at an event by the Young Youth Wing of the NPP to mark International Youth Day. Manuel Kranting was there for Joy News.
What the youth of this country should ask is, what did John Mahama do for the youth in 8 years of government? Did he create jobs? No. Did his government maintain teacher training allowance? Did his government maintain nursing training allowance? Did he establish the Vozongo Development Fund? Did his government have a program for agriculture apart from guinea fowls? Could you transfer mobile money across telephone networks? Could you apply for scholarships online? Did he provide free TVET? Did he provide free SHS?
Vice President Bawumia launches fresh attacks on former President John Mahama. He said the records of incompetence of the former president while in office are still fresh in the minds of Ghanaians. Dr. Bawumia suggested that John Mahama's promises to create over 1 million jobs, pay all customers of defunct microfinance institutions, among others, are only meant to deceive Ghanaians. But the second term of the Akufo-Addo government will implement transformational policies and programs that will focus on the youth.
We are, in the context of digitization, we are aggressively pursuing an agenda to formalize the Ghanaian economy through digitization. The introduction of the national ID card is a game changer. The recent data shows that 13.5 million people have been enrolled for the national ID card, and it is estimated that before the end of the year we would have some 16 million people registered, if not more. Then the national ID card will become the anchor for formalizing the economy as well as integrating existing databases. As we try to allocate certain resources for COVID, small businesses were asked to apply and individuals were asked to apply for these reliefs from government. People were asked, what is your TIN number? You remember? And many people did not have a TIN number. In fact, less than 3 million people in Ghana have a TIN number. So we have decided that we are going to make sure that almost everybody, as much as possible, has a TIN number. And how are we going to do this? It's quite straightforward. All national ID numbers will be converted into TIN numbers starting. So if you have a national ID number, once you have a national ID number, from January going, it will become your TIN number.
Meanwhile, Chief of Staff Akosua Fremont Pare urged the youth of the party to invest their energies in helping to heal the wounds that were sustained at the recent parliamentary primaries in order to increase the chances of keeping its seat and maintaining power.
So please, the primaries are over. Those who are going for so-called independence are many. and some of you know them. I want you to take some initiatives within your communities and engage with these people. Tell them there's a time for everything and bring them back in. A lot of the supporters that they have are likely to be the youth within the communities who are supporting these independent candidates that have the potential to erode our gains. It has the potential of splitting our votes. It has the potential of creating apathy.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has meanwhile asked the clergy to assist the NDC save the country from sinking under the current administration. He argued that the democratic gains achieved is being eroded, citing the bastardization and politicization of state institutions. The NDC flag bearer was speaking at a meeting with the clergy to introduce his running mate, Professor Jenano Pokwajaman, to them. Kwesi Parker Wilson was there for Joy News.
And will command his anointing to be the apportioned through the name of he that arose.
Pastors and some leading members of the NDC laid their hands on the party's running mate, Professor Jenano Pokwajaman, seeking God's blessings and favor upon her ahead of the campaign. Former President John Mahama called on Christian leaders to assist the NDC salvage the country's democracy, which he said is at the verge of collapse.
We're in danger of losing our way, and today our country is at a crossroads in our democratic dispensation. We used to be the shining light and point of reference in Africa when it comes to the independence and integrity of our democratic institutions. Today, all these gains we proudly achieved as a people, as a country, are being eroded and setting us back several decades. Almost everything that we had as a people, as a country, we had held dear and sacred, are intentionally being corrupted in furtherance of selfish political ends. But my brothers and sisters, no matter where we have belonged on the political divide, this is a time for us to unite and act together to save our country. We cannot sit silently and look on as our nation slips towards decadence and dictatorship. It is not about me, John Mahama. Indeed, it's about Ghana.
Mr. Mahama also pledged to run a clean campaign in spite of the attacks on him and that of his running mate.
My running mate, Professor Nana Jenano Pokwajaman, whom I'm presenting to you today, has been encouraged by, a few days ago by the Osumanche to be strong and courageous in the face of what he feared would be a barrage of insults and attacks on her person, just because she has decided to serve her country at the highest level, to help shape its destiny and ensure shared prosperity for all. Indeed, these unprovoked attacks and insults and lies have already started, but I can assure you and all Ghanaians that Nana Jane and myself will never engage in insults and name-calling of our opponents in response.
General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, Reverend Paul Frimpon Manso, cautioned politicians against insults during their campaigns.
First and foremost, whenever you want to speak to the public, there are three things you must consider. First, you have to go and appeal to the intellect. You have to go with facts that can be proven and substantiated. Because you go there and you throw something, you can prove it and defend it. So don't attack whoever it is the person. The propaganda way of insulting and attacking is backward, and we must grow beyond that. And I can count on you that President Mahama will not do that. And the others will not.
But will politicians listen to this counsel? Kwesi Parker Wilson for Joy News.
The former president and flag bearer of the opposition NDC, John Dramani Mahama, says he will ensure quality education when he bounces back to power. He promised to end the worrying development of senior high school students who feel entitled to cheat during examinations, as witnessed in the ongoing WASSCE exams. The former president also promised to complete all abandoned senior high school buildings he started during his first term. He made these remarks when he visited the National Chief Imam at his Fadama residence to introduce his running mate, Professor Nano Pokwajaman, to the leader of the Muslim community in Ghana. Latif Idris has the rest of the story.
All the work that I did, the hospitals, the roads, the interchanges, the electricity, the water, in the 4 years that I served as president, we borrowed 54 billion Ghana cedis. In 3.5 years, this government has borrowed more than 140 billion cedis. It would not have been a problem if we could see what they've done with the money. There is nothing to show for it. No roads, no hospital, no electricity, no water. Can you imagine what I could have done with 140 billion Ghana cedis?
The former president touched on a number of issues from education to economy. Now on education, the former president says one of the things his second coming as president would pursue is to ensure that quality education is properly and vigorously pursued, to ensure that the secondary school students do not feel entitled to cheat during examinations.
We will improve the free SHS and make sure that the quality of teaching and learning is made better so that our children will not think that it's an entitlement for them to cheat in exams. If you prepare the children well, they are not going to fight with an invigilator because he's preventing them from cheating in exams.
The former president has made a promise that if given the nod to become the next president, he will ensure that all these buildings are completed.
She pioneered the building of the community day schools. And by the time we left office, over 45 of these schools had been commissioned and had children studying in them. By the time we left, 73 were ready for teaching and learning to start. And one of the things we'll do when we come back into office, and I know inshallah we're coming back into office, is to complete the 200 community day schools that we began, so that we can bring a quick end to the double track system. We want our children to go to school at the same time and all vacate at the same time.
The educationist, Professor Nana Pokwajaman, says the government should come out and defend that record of getting students to riot because they took difficult exams.
Who will soon stop being a flag bearer because he will be the president of this country. He has a record to stand on. We want others to come with their records too. It's not about living cost or so. Tell us the state of the secondary schools now. Since when did we have in this country, children normally come from exam and say, yeah, it was a hard paper. But what was the last time ever that we saw so many children in so many schools misbehaving because the paper was hard? So what is going wrong? That is a record we need them to come and defend.
One of the points she mentioned is that economy is not just about the numbers, but it also has to do with the quality development of the Ghanaian people.
The time is now to make a difference. The time is now to have a simple exercise record registration.
Half a dozen newly born babies and mothers have died in the last 6 years at an island community of Faana in the South Municipal Assembly of the Greater Accra region. That is according to residents of the community trapped in between the sea and lagoon with no access to health care. Other inhabitants and pregnant women continue to die and deliver in canoes as a result of traveling for over 1 hour in paddled canoes to access healthcare. Now, Joy News' Henry Kwesibedu returned from that community and has more in the following report.
35-year-old Kwame recounting how her wife in 2018 delivered their first child in a canoe en route a chief's compound miles away from the island community.
I went fishing when my wife was in labor. She delivered on her way to the hospital in a canoe. The hospital is very far from where we live. I was afraid something might happen to my wife because the health center was a distance away.
His wife is lucky to have survived, but the fisherman is worried because his wife is now 7 months pregnant, expecting a second child soon.
I am now afraid that something may happen to my wife the next time she labors.
The only way to access the community is by canoe. With no electricity, water, and other basic amenities, pregnant women and other members of the community in dire need of health care will have to risk their lives by sitting in paddling canoes without life jackets for close to 1 hour to reach the nearest health facility.
There is no clinic here. There is no anything that can help an individual or people here so that they will be able to give birth. That is why normally when they are in a labor, people normally convey them in a boat to Chokome or the other side, that is Pamblos, before they can do deliver.
Rosemary Dasi is also a resident here. Her water broke in the dead of the night last year. With no canoes operating in the night and no traditional birth attendants, she had to wait for 4 hours to get a canoe, enduring severe pains and putting her life and the baby on the edge.
It started around 1 a.m. I felt funny, and my husband called his mother and grandmother. They confirmed my time was due. The canoe came around 5 a.m.
Rosemary delivered, but she does not want to relive the same experience.
I was in pain and I couldn't sit in the canoe. After an hour, we got to the banks of the river and I was told to quicken my steps. I got to the hospital and delivered safely, but it was a horrifying experience.
Pregnant women aren't the only victims here. Other sick persons face similar challenges too. They rely on first aid until they get access to canoes, which are not readily available. Rosemary now has 2 children. She tells me how she takes care of them anytime they are unwell before seeking medical attention.
I take my children through steam inhalation or give them some herbs anytime they are unwell until I get a canoe.
Health personnel visit the community occasionally to provide life-saving health services like immunizing their babies. Today is one of such days, and we tag along community health nurses at the Botiano clinic as they embark on a journey to Faana. We finally reach the community trapped between the sea and the lagoon. Onansis Kankam is a visiting nurse.
If there is money, there is a every 2 weeks. We're able to come, but if there is not money, once in a month, then we try our best and then come. Yes, yesterday, a similar one just occurred. But by God's grace, we were able to say.
What happened? Can you narrate what happened to me?
You see, there are certain area that when we get, the sea has just joined the lake, so it makes it difficult to pass through the waves. So we were stuck. But let me say, with the techniques of the captain, that is the one driving the boat, and by God's grace, we are able to say today. It's not easy. It's not easy. If you don't, if you are not a man, let me say that if you are not a man, you cannot come. You rather go back, or you feel reluctant to come to this particular area to work.
An asthmatic patient died here earlier this year. Sister of the deceased, Gifty Akoli, spoke to us.
He had complications and died in a canoe before he could reach a health facility.
Half a dozen newly-born babies have died in the past 6 years because they could not get to a healthcare facility early enough. Son of the chief of the community, Bismarck George Edbe, tells us more.
Actually, bear to my knowledge and based on what I've come to, clinically about 6 people who have delivered on the way. Bear to my knowledge, that's what I've heard and what I've seen. But clinically, 6 people who have delivered on the way.
And how many have lost their babies?
Yeah, actually, that's 6 people that I'm talking about. 4 people lost their baby on the way. 4 people lost their baby, and 2 have lost their life. 2 people lost their life and 2 people lost their baby.
Until the government comes to the aid of the community in dire need of healthcare centers like that of Faana, many lives will continue to be at risk. Henry Kwesi-Bedu for Joy News.
Let's do more COVID now, and COVID-19 cases now stands at a little over 2,000, with the country recording fewer new cases. Despite the decline, though, 8 more COVID-19 related deaths were reported on August 9. 168 new cases were also recorded, taking the case count to 41,572 confirmed since March, with 39,320 recoveries and discharges and 223 deaths. The new cases for August 9, being tested on 1,340 samples, have a positivity rate of 12.54%. The Ghana Health Service has been criticized for a significant reduction in testing, which is believed to be the reason why the cases are declining. We'll shortly be speaking with UK-based Ghanaian pharmacist Kwame Sapong Esiedu, one of those who believe the Ghana Health Service should be doing a whole lot more as far as the COVID-19 fight is concerned. Before then, though, the District Director of Health for the KJB district in the Oti region, Eric Nanatechi, has revealed the unavailability of funds at the Directorate is impeding the fight against COVID-19 in that district. According to the Director, surveillance is becoming a challenge as the Directorate does not have enough funds to support the process. He adds the Directorate will sometimes have to rely on support from members of its staff to send samples collected to testing centers. Correspondent Peter Seno has more in the following report.
Since the advent of COVID-19 into the country some 5 months ago, the District Director of Health for the KJB district, Eric Nanatechi, has received PPE from various institutions with one appeal, asking for more to stem the fight against COVID-19. The appeal this time is for cash and fuel for COVID-19 surveillance after he received some PPE from a philanthropist, Bawa Faisal. According to the health director, it is difficult conducting surveillance due to unavailability of funds.
Alone does not work. You see, the main challenge we have regarding the fight of COVID in the district is mainly funds. We are challenged with disease surveillance. Today, A facility will call you, they are suspecting COVID case. Quickly, you have to move there with your car and petrol. You pick the sample, you have to transport it all the way to home. So before you finish surveillance on just a particular case, about 500 Ghana, send them to isolating center, managing them, feeding them, about 7,000 girls. But we don't seem to receive much from above. And we are seriously challenged. Sometimes individuals have to sacrifice their mega salary just to fight or champion this cause. So we can equally mobilize your people to at least contribute your widow's mite in the form of cash or fuel just to support us in surveillance activities. They will very much appreciate.
We're joined via Zoom by UK-based Ghanaian pharmacist Kwame Sapon-Asiedu. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I'm sure you're aware of the latest COVID-19 update, which suggests Ghana is having less cases to deal with. At the same time, though, we're seeing more deaths. Now, 17 deaths have been reported in the last 7 days. How do you contrast the decline in cases with the death rate in the last few days?
Thank you. For a long time, I have discounted dealing with the actual daily case counts reported, and I'll tell you why. If you go back to the Ghana Health Service website, from as far back as the 1st of July, you realize that until yesterday, there was no case reporting that was done within 14 days. The mean, which is the average number of days, was between 31 and 39 days. And it's on the Ghana Health Service website. It's not me saying it. Anyone can go and check it. Which then meant that on average, 58% of all cases reported on a daily basis were reported out of the 14-day case window, which then meant that they never became active cases. They were automatically added on as recoveries or discharge. Therefore, our active cases were bound to decline because the people were not being reported as active when they actually were positive. So that's one thing. What does that mean? What that meant was that those people were walking around in the community thinking, especially when we have about 90% of our cases being mildly symptomatic, thinking that they were okay and infecting other people if they were not observing the protocols, which then meant that community spread was high. And how do I know that? If you look at our positivity test percentage, which is the number of people who test positive from the total number of samples we test on a daily basis, for the past 4 weeks, it's been above 20%, which then means that for every 5 people in Ghana who are tested for COVID, 1 tests positive. The other thing we need to look at is what I normally term the hangover effect of COVID, which is the fact that, yes, 90% of people may be recovering, but we also know that the full effects of COVID in the sense of whatever chronic diseases you would be saddled with is not known, which means that if your mortality is technically low, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are out of the woods, because your health system, especially for a health system like ours, which doesn't have a lot of resources, might be saddled with costs that we are not prepared for. So if I look at the numbers that were reported today, I just don't look at the number in unison, because I've always said that numbers on their own mean nothing. I look at them on the basis of a number of things that are going on and are underlying, and I think that we need to be concerned rather than celebrating ourselves.
Doc, are you surprised that health officials in the KJB district are also complaining about lack of funds to fight the pandemic?
No, I'm not. I am not, because if you look at the WHO protocols around testing and being in control or ahead of the virus, it's clear that if your positivity cumulated which is since the pandemic arrived in your country, is above 5%, you are not testing wide enough. If over a consistent period of time, which is normally 4 weeks, it is between 3 and 12%, your testing is okay but could have gotten better. The minute it's above 12%, you are definitely not in control of the pandemic. We have for 7.5 weeks been above 12%. In fact, for the past 5 weeks, we've been above 20%. So why am I not surprised? I'm not surprised with the KJB complaint because, like I said earlier, the mean time within which results are being reported is over 30 days, and it's on the Ghana Health Service website. So if they are telling me that it takes them a long time from getting the samples even to a testing center, and I know that from the time of the sample being taken to the time of the patient getting their results is above 30 days, why should I be surprised? The person is speaking actually what is known. It is just that people haven't paid attention.
Interesting, but what should be the way forward? Certainly, something is not being done right.
It's not about something not being done right. I've always maintained right from the start of this fight that we need to be candid with ourselves, because when it comes to testing, it involves money. If you look at a PCR test, it takes between $65 and $100 for a single test. At the moment, Ghana has done close to 420,000 tests, which means that you are talking about, if you go by $100, you are talking about $42 million in testing alone at the upper limit, and slightly lower, roughly above 31,000, 32,000 if you look at the $65. And therefore, we need to be honest and candid with ourselves and ask ourselves the question, can this country fund this level of testing for an indeterminate period? And for me, the answer is no. And that is why our testing levels are dropping, and that is why our new cases are dropping. And that is why also funds going to the hinterlands, like the KJB director was saying, is sparse. And therefore, the time taken, the lag time between samples being collected and patients getting their results is also elongated. But if we continue down this route, then obviously we would always have this virus riddling our economy. And for me, that is the biggest worry, because if that goes on, what it means is if and when the world opens up, we would not be ready to open up, even if we open up unilaterally, because no one would want to come to the country knowing that the potential for contracting the disease is high.
It is indeed worrying. I'm grateful for your time. Kwame Sapong Asedo is a UK-based Ghanaian pharmacist, and he's been speaking about a decline in numbers and increase in death rates in COVID-19 cases. Still to come in this bulletin, Community Water and Sanitation Agency moves in to avert threats by small towns water supplies to sabotage government's free water scheme over unpaid bills for the first phase of the initiative.
Number of providers are just taking advantage and trying to provide figures that are not justified. Today is the last day that they will submit the validated data.
Businesses all over the world are revising the way they service their clients as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the oldest profession in the world doesn't want to be left behind.
No.
There is more Plus Business after this break. Good
Good evening, everyone. I am Sandra Isenopano. I'm here for business. The national year-on-year inflation rate was 11.4% in July 2020, which is a 0.2 percentage points higher than last month. Aside food and non-alcoholic beverages group, which recorded 13.7%, the transport and housing subgroups recorded a higher rate of inflation for the period. There's more in the following report.
The national year-on-year inflation rate was 11.4% in July 2020, which is a 0.2 percentage points higher than last month. Aside the food and non-alcoholic beverages group, which recorded 13.7%, the transport and housing subsector recorded a higher rate of inflation for the period. According to the Ghana Statistical Services, there has been a marginal reduction in the effects of the coronavirus pandemic in the rate of inflation from the various regions. Here is Professor Kobina Enim.
Between July 2019 and July 2020, on the average, general price levels have gone up by 11.4%. On a month-on-month basis, that is comparing June 2020 with July 2020, inflation was 0.5%. This is the lowest inflation, month-on-month inflation, that we've recorded during the COVID phase, which means that we have returned to the pre-COVID month-on-month levels, which we have an inflation figure of 0.5%.
In a related development, the Ghana Statistical Service has worked out inflation rate for the month of July on two scenarios. This should mean that the inflation rate for July without the coronavirus is now 9.3%.
From the perspective of core inflation, we still are maintaining the single digit, as was the case during the pre-COVID times.
The Greater Accra region is still having the highest rate of inflation, followed by the Ashanti and Western regions respectively.
Shareholders of ADB will not be paid dividends on the bank's 2019 financial year, even though the bank recorded a year-on-year profit after tax of 14.8 million cedis in 2019 compared to 5.9 million cedis in 2018. Board chairman of the bank, Alex Benasco, revealed that ADB, as a result of end of December 2016, was burdened with a negative income surplus of 188.8 million cedis. Charles Haiti has more in this report.
Speaking at the bank's 33rd annual general meeting, Alex Benasco, the board chairman of the bank, revealed that the development has subjected the bank to a regulation requirement by the Bank of Ghana that directs its rights of the accumulation operating losses before declaring dividends.
The board is thus constrained from recommending the declaration of dividends until the accumulated negative income surplus has been completely written off.
Meanwhile, Managing Director of the bank, Dr. John Kofi Mensah, has revealed the bank will intensify its e-commerce products and services. This, he says, will see ADB complete the migration from magnetic stripe cards to a much more secured EMV chip and PIN cards.
Latter part of 2019, we decided to put a new business plan in place, and therefore we had to beef up our staffing position for the new business plan.
ADB showed some gains in the headline interest margin, which improved from 55.4% in preceding year to 61% in 2019, responding to the retail deposit increased by 31.2% from the 2.6 billion cedis in 2018 to 3.4 billion cedis in 2019. This largely resulted in a 27% balance sheet growth and accounting for the 28% increase in gross loans from 1.5 billion cedis in 2018 to 1.9 billion cedis.
Fraud cases in financial institutions have gone up marginally in the country. According to a Bank of Ghana report, the cases reached 2,295 as at the end of last year. That's more in this Business Desk report.
According to the Bank of Ghana, the 2019 numbers represent over 5% jump in terms of the total fraud cases reported in 2018. The report shows that the suppression of cash and issues with deposits accounted for the largest portion of fraud cases reported to the Bank of Ghana. These fraud cases can be valued at 111 million cedis. However, 33.44 million cedis can be attributed to real losses to the respective
respective institutions, while 82 million Ghana cedis was unsuccessful, or the said institutions managed to prevent them. The report also showed that suppression of cash had almost about 1,800 cases, representing 43% jump over that of 2018. Forgery and manipulation also went up by 15% with 135 cases. However, cybercrime and ATM cases went down marginally. About 20 million cedis was lost to email fraud. But the Bank of Ghana in the report maintains that the numbers could have been higher if it wasn't for some measures internally instituted by these banks as well as the regulator.
That'll be all for the first part of business. I'm back later with more.
Time now for Showbiz. Becky is here with the very latest from the Showbiz world. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you,
Sister
Aisha.
Becky.
Yes, Aisha. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm fine. I'm also
And I'm in love with your dress.
Oh, thank you so much. Aisha, let's talk about Stonebwoy and Sarkodie's manager. What do you
That was a clash?
Yeah. So apparently Stonebwoy had to go for a rehearsal. You know, Sarkodie has this album, Black Love, coming up. So Stonebwoy had to go for the rehearsals, and yeah, it was actually a virtual concert which will come off on Sunday.
So he was rehearsing for that
so a lot
concert.
of people, Sarkodie brings in people to, you know, rehearse. So at the rehearsal grounds, according to so many reports, Stonebwoy got there. And he got there hours, and he's been sleeping, and they haven't been calling him. And then he woke up. That's the story. He woke up and he realized that, well, oh, what's going on? I've been here since, and
nobody's him. But because maybe he was sleeping, so maybe they wanted him to have a good sleep.
Well, so at the end of the day, Aisha, to cut a long story short, at the end of the day, it's alleged that Stonebwoy slapped or hit Angelo,
who is Sarkodie's manager. Wow.
So you see the pictures on there. So
wow, so that's from a slap?
Well, that's what is happening. But this afternoon on Hit FM, speaking to Prince Chega on, obviously Hit FM, Aisha, who is an aide to Stonebwoy, made some shocking revelations, including the fact that she believes there's so much hate for Stonebwoy among his peers, and the infamous happening is only a manifestation of the hate people have for Stonebwoy. She also stated that Sarkodie did not show Stonebwoy respect at the venue. Basically, that was coming, that's actually coming from Aisha. She was just a while ago speaking on Hit FM about the incident.
But what is Stonebwoy himself saying?
Stonebwoy is not, obviously, Aisha, when it comes to these things, they don't talk. You try to reach them and they won't talk about it. Angelo won't talk about it. Sarkodie won't comment about it. Stonebwoy is not commenting. So what we have is what the people
around them when the incident happened are actually
saying. So they've been trending on social media, they've been trending on Twitter, Stonebwoy and all that.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so I don't know how, but we will give our viewers, you know, details.
We'll try and get them to
as in when,
and then.
But I also understand that Sarkodie has deleted. No, I saw it actually. Has deleted, you know, the flyer for the virtual concert. Sarkodie posted the Stonebwoy's picture, but then deleted
now
it.
He's taking Stonebwoy out of it.
So it means that Stonebwoy is not performing.
Some elimination by rough tactics is coming in there.
Aisha,
oh my goodness, that's
so
really
bad. Well, it appears that Stonebwoy is not performing there.
It's bad because I've been looking forward to this concert, and
you're looking forward to Stonebwoy's performance.
Stonebwoy's performance, of course. So this is really bad.
It's I feel very sad.
Yeah, I mean, you particularly will feel very sad because Stonebwoy, you have so much love for Stonebwoy,
and everybody. I mean, everybody else in the industry. So when these things happen, you don't really know what to do. So we'll just move on.
It's really so we'll be looking forward to how things pan out. For all you know, they would go and settle their issues.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll
these people, you can't trust them.
Yeah. Let's just
so who's on the spotlight?
Oh, Irene is on spotlight, but before we okay, let's talk about Irene. When was the last time you heard from Irene? She wants
It's been a while.
Yeah, she felt that the secular music, she feels dirty. According to her, she feels dirty when she's, you know, singing the secular music. So she wants to do more of gospel.
Oh, wow.
But we miss her in the industry, and so we're putting the spotlight on Irene Logan.
She has such a beautiful voice.
Very beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I wish that Irene will come back into the
we
music,
really,
no matter what genre it is.
I mean, whatever
gospel,
she brings, we'll grab it because we love that voice. Yes. Thank you so much for bringing us through
Anytime,
this, Vicky. And that'll be it for Showbiz. Back to Journey's Prime, to the rest of our stories. And fishermen across the central region have started a one-week protest against the activities of Saiko, the transshipment of fish at sea in Ghana. The fishermen say they are fortified by the revelations in Joy News' Hotline documentary, Saiko, when the last fish is caught, and want government to ban the activities of Saiko to save the fishing industry. The fishermen, clad in red, say though they're in the bumper season, they often return with empty nets, a situation that is killing the fishing industry. Central Regional Secretary of the Canoe Fishermen Association, Ken Arthur, says government's intervention will save over 3 million people.
The flags that are hoisted on the canoes that are either flags of football teams or countries have turned red. The men, the women, and even the children are in red because what they depend on is under serious threats. It's a protest against Saiko, the illegal transshipment of fish at sea. The fishermen say the matter has reached an alarming height, such that life has become unbearable for those that directly depend on the sea for their livelihoods. Ken Arthur is the Regional Secretary of the Canoe Owners Association.
If someone is in red, it means there's a danger. But this one is a danger against our livelihood. As fishermen, we are supposed to be in the bumper season of the year. That is starting from July to September. But as you can see, the whole place is dry. From Volta region to Western region, the whole place, all the landing beaches are dry. Why? Because the Saiko people, the Chinese, have taken over our seas. And this time around, if you go into the sea, you observe that they are everywhere. And the artisan fishermen don't have any place even to cast their nets. And it's becoming very difficult even to survive. You could see a lot of children around. Even what to feed on is become very difficult. Some few months ago, it came to the limelight nationwide on Joy that Saiko business is indeed killing the fishing industry, the artisan fishing industry in Ghana. Based on that documentary, there became an eye-opener that Ghanaians, we need to rise up. The fishermen, we need to rise up. Those of us who are directly involved in fishing, we need to rise up.
A couple of weeks ago, Joy News' undercover investigations revealed the activities of the industrial trawlers at sea that are destroying the fishing industry. In the Hotline documentary titled Saiko, when the last fish is caught, the industrial trawlers were caught using small-sized nets to catch small fishes while they later threw the dead fishes back into the sea. Some of the fishermen and fishmongers say such acts break their hearts. They have been sharing their frustrations with Joy News. We are appealing to government to intervene. We are unable to take care of our children. Our children at the senior high schools can be catered for. They are unable to buy books. We are unable to make ends meet. What we will eat is even a problem. Our husbands are leaving us as a result of this. My husband has even left me. Had it not been for the free senior high school, we would have been in very serious situation because we could not have paid their school fees. We are appealing to government to take a tougher stance at the Chinese vessels. If our husbands are unable to bring anything home, how will we keep the home? We plead with government to help us out. Saiko menace is destroying our sea. The Saiko people use their small net to drag ours and destroy our net apart from the havoc they cause on the sea. We are indeed in difficult times. We are supposed to have good catch at this time, but here we are with empty nets. We can't even take care of our wives and children. The 1 week protest starts Wednesday. Say further moves would be made to ensure government plays its part to stop the activities of the industrial fishing trawlers. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
And back here in the studio in Accra, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Now, 44-year-old pastor with the Jehovah Nissi Church at Ejisu has been murdered in cold blood. The incident, which occurred Wednesday dawn at his residence in Santase new site, has stirred fear amongst residents in the neighborhood. Maxwell Atakra was shot dead in front of his door after his dawn prayers. According to tenants, he sounded an alarm that armed robbers had invaded the building. One other resident who saw the two masked armed robbers described them as young men within their 20s.
Hey, Mas! 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 Hey! The unfortunate incidents of the murder of this 44-year-old pastor happened here at New Kejase at a Santase Engineering new site. This is the house where the incident occurred, and we are here to speak to some of the tenants and the landlord to understand what really took place.
We first of all went to the first room, so they decided to open the room and they couldn't open it. They tried several times, but they couldn't open it, and they moved forward to other room. So that room is Nigerian woman room, and they knocked the door and trying, like they are shouting like, help me, help me. She doesn't know that the person is an robber, or so she just came out and she tried to find out what is happening, and they just pointed the gun on the woman and told him that just enter your room and bring you out your money. One of them took the phone and they searched inside his bag. It was 100 cedis inside. So they took 50 cedis and left the woman 50 cedis.
So according to the eyewitness in this particular house, when these two armed robbers came from up here and they were unsuccessful with the two gentlemen they wanted to rob, they were about leaving when they saw 44-year-old Maxwell Atakwa, the pastor, over here. So they came downstairs and pushed this door open. He was behind. After successfully opening this door, then they gunned him down. Maxwell Atakwa's wife, Felicia Atakwa, couldn't hold back her tears when we got to the family house. They had 3 beautiful girls, 10-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 2 weeks, 3 days baby girl.
Obawura bedroom ho. Then na born say ebie. And I say me first card but na sika bai. Sika bai me fama no. Sika bai no me. O so fama shi too. And o ejo e say me so na me. Ide me ka. And me pia bonten. Tim pia wa de valante mo na me kunu da ho a. O tim. Tina me man so nkitu amieni no mo jeja no. Zo mi enko. Umi enko. And you dear me can you pay? Timmy do all I say. Well, who are that?
After what seemed to be an unsuccessful robbery, the two then deflated the tires of vehicles that had parked on the compound and bolted. The landlord explains there will be new tenancy regulations in the house.
Many tenant in Abishia. Na gate no, eweto padlock atum no be agene de. Near matama with the baby fee. So, Nessa Womaya Untimi Emewuram. And that's what Ubewuram swire say no watum, cause no crea crope. Sa and run no man to gate in him until move easy.
Meanwhile, the COCOBOD police have begun investigations. Prince Apia reporting.
Management of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency has ascribed accusations leveled against the agency of refusing to pay suppliers of water for government's free water initiative as part of COVID-19 relief package to rural and small towns and villages as false and unsubstantiated. According to the chief executive of CWSA, Walanyo Kwejo Siabi, the agency is in the process of validating data presented by the Association of Small Towns Water Supply System, ASTOWAS, before payments are made. He says the data submitted by ASTOWAS is riddled with errors and unexplained claims that needs validation before payments are made.
The water service providers, they are supposed to submit this data to our regional offices in all the regions. Then our regional offices will collate, because there are so many of these providers, so they are supposed to collate all of them based on districts and regions, and then submit to our head office so we can then pay. There are a lot of difficulties, and I will tell you some of the difficulties that come up with the information that we want. You have provided service, bring us information according to a certain format so that we can understand, our ministry can understand, Ministry of Finance can also understand. The resources will be provided by Ministry of Finance. They should understand the data. Otherwise, it will be difficult for them to just give us money, go and pay. Pay who? How much? What amount of water have they provided? You know, so some of the problems we had. We have provided service April, May, and June already. We asked the providers, give us your data. Some have provided April, some have provided up to May. June, they haven't provided. Okay. Now, we have also noted that they have set aside the guidelines and provided the information the way they want it. Somebody a provider just wrote, April, I have given, I'm just using an amount of money. We have provided, and the total amount is 150,000. So kindly take the necessary steps to pay us. Okay. They didn't tell us how much water they have supplied. They didn't tell us how much a unit, cubic meter cost, you know. There is no other information. That is it. Some have submitted electricity cost to us. And when we check, you see, we have noted when we started the reforms that most of these water systems in the communities, they have outstanding bill over 40 million cedis. That is the quantum of outstanding bills they have in their name with ECG, VRA, and GridCo.
He also says government through CSWA is ready to pay for the claims once validation is completed.
We have made an arrangement to validate, collect the data, validate it, and pay. So once we are sure that you have provided free water, you will be paid. You see, we also have to make sure we look at the cost of water. You can't come and say that, okay, I have fixed my tariff. I'm going to charge you for every cubic meter. I will charge you 20 cedis. When PURC has agreed that it should be like this, or CWSA has agreed that it should be like this. So we are looking at all of this, and a number of providers are just taking advantage and trying to provide figures that are not justified.
On the 23rd of July 2020, leadership of the Association of Small Towns Water Supply Systems Ghana issued a statement threatening to withdraw their services to supply Ghanaians with free water as announced by the president. And to other stories, the call for people to maintain physical distances as one of the ways to minimize the spread of COVID-19 is threatening professions and industries that bring people together, particularly the entertainment sector. This has, however, inspired some people to think up new ways of rendering their services while keeping their clients safe. That's the story of a sex worker in her late 20s. Ajwa, not her real name, says though COVID-19 has been really bad for business, she has had to revise her service manuals to ensure she's able to minimize the risk of infection for both herself and her clients. She says face masks have now become an essential component of the dress, or better yet, undress code.
Corona by way and still a corona no star and pepper.
Cool. Missionary na.
Omoba monfa corona na
me oba maybe say nose mask when o sanitizer o dey check. Na ma catch yourself afafa on sound. O nose mask nso be check. Me nso ma ye me dey. Ukwa ba horo mensa. Ma sanitizer me ho asa.
Woni ne pa neighbor da be say nose mask.
I said then no face me no say o ma me corona me yen den. Ento no share me nso ma share. Na wa dane wa no say me nso ma dane. Me ma wo face me.
Ba missionary na mo ba mo yen no say
because so no dog in bia o ka say fence 50 on ya scam ma. Enti ni sika so 20 na wa yen normal na o ko ni baby.
This is however hopeful business will pick up soon.
If you lockdown, I will buy a hair. Any person, na corona buy. What's the same? They are in a business. Your corona affected business.
Oh, I affected business, no. They say and do not pay. Almost true. Said the commercial sex workers, no. Was a nyasa area. But open conform we need prostitutes. Very, very neat pa because a day no while you are any who needs her obi mbambe fano obema banu who say we need and obi raw enti ye entire de ye entire nempawa now we use expensive things because of a certain skin that will not be maybe when I fe. Plema need to be told in 200 Ghana. Maybe I know ye juma 200 crowd, but to in 200 Ghana or better for a boarding. Benyame, me yes, a jumano.
Over catch a Ghana from Bama, and I saw customer say, Woman forget to corona no mum brown and be juma. Mum brown and more harvests, no and more protect more.
Oh,
obey customers or mum brown still no more. Because the beginning say corona by crying into most of crime.
Oh, Debbie. Yeah, well, papa. Oh, Bani, here is our protector. And then it's all about protection. Who shall kuku obinya. Now, Mamu, Aboriginal. Oh, Yana. Now, maybe I need to baby and your force. Bomon beba, no beba. Omo bade bianso e na anu no so enye nkurase for the bar omo mu bu omo titiri for ba titiri for when you just say to me be ka wa
ba wetin dey see here
bra If someone is earning, even even 100 Ghana Grand, they may have a man to society. I get 3,000, and you still have. I do hookups. Hookup and so sky and no hookup no and no and yeah BBC I know you're decent ones and no minister be to me feel obia matured men, these matured people they are there. You post your pictures, your nudes, they get attracted, they pay you big money. It says I will be able to 20 Ghana hookup to me about 3 million, 4 million.
When you hookup
and no na me ya wa
minister be fraud
so na wo ye minister ba ka je me minister kan je me ba hu nipa na wa enkom calls be receiving no be say no this man is a big man and me no na me dey chill but they say me come me hwe wa even pef cry bon won ho kan no na me dey any calculation a charge you na me the way me ya me bank kwa wo kra no ska me bon ubetua.
We take a break on Joy News Prime. We'll be back with the rest of business. Stay with us.
Hello again, let's do more business news. Mobile Money Limited says it has so far, in collaboration with the police, arrested over 40 mobile money fraudsters across the country. While mobile money technology has revolutionized monetary transaction and savings in the country, fraudsters continue to devise strategies to swindle unsuspected users. General Manager of Mobile Money Limited, Eli Hene, spoke at this year's MTN Momo Stakeholders Workshop organized in Accra. Here's a report by Bismarck Awusa.
11 years on since its inception, a total of 4 billion cedis has been saved and transferred through the MTN mobile money service. But lingering issues such as fraud still persist within the ecosystem. Speaking to Joy Business, the General Manager of Mobile Money Limited, Eli Hene, says his outfit has so far nabbed in excess of 40 fraudsters, but will not back down on its quest to prosecute more of such miscreants.
This includes swoops, and which means that we are able to predict and therefore go into spaces where we believe these people may be operating from and pick them up. What we are telling Ghanaians is to be vigilant. They take advantage of every situation.
In a related development, the Bank of Ghana says it has put in place measures to address challenges arising from collaboration between fintechs in providing mobile money services. Kwame Opon is the head of fintech and innovations at the Bank of Ghana.
One of our mandates beyond ensuring an effective payment system is also to ensure, to contribute to sector stability. Now, lending, some of you may have gotten access to loans digitally.
Chief Executive of Jumia Ghana, Diana Owusu-Chireko, said COVID-19 has presented the urge and need to boost electronic transactions.
It's really only through the transaction in e-commerce can, a seller who was in Kumasi or Accra who's had to shut down as a result of COVID, be able to have access to the whole country in terms of consumers without interruption in their sort of daily income. And that's essentially what we're doing as Jumia, trying to improve the lives of people through technology.
The 8th MTN Momo Stakeholder Workshop brought together speakers within the financial and e-commerce ecosystem. It was themed Boosting Growth of the FinTech Ecosystem in the COVID-19 World. Bismarck Awusa, Joy Business.
Parliament has approved COCOBOD's request for a $1.3 billion syndicated loan facility. The loan is to help purchase cocoa beans for the 2020-2021 crop season. The approval follows a deliberation by the Finance Committee of Parliament. COCOBOD is also looking at 900,000 metric tons as a production target for next year. Joining me via Zoom is parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Hi, Joseph, if you can hear me. COVID has virtually, affected everything. Can you tell us how they hope to raise this loan facility?
From the indication that's coming from COCOBOD in their communication to Parliament, they say the market looks good in terms of raising this money. The members of Parliament Finance Committee expressed that specific concern and actually advised that they don't see why COCOBOD should be going for a loan virtually every year in order to buy cocoa, and that after more than 100 years of cocoa growing, we should be in a situation where they should be able to have money sitting down to go buy cocoa, or possibly go ahead and raise that money locally rather than still relying on foreigners. But they say all the deals have been signed and they are good to go in terms of this particular.
So good to go, but is there a clearer picture as to the interest we are likely to pay on these loans?
Yes, and so from the reports of the Finance Committee, the interest we gather are no different from the figures that had been seen over the last 2-3 years. In fact, the indication coming from the committee is that all of those bits have been looked at, and the interest figures are similar to what they've had over the last 3 years as well.
So, yes, I said earlier that COVID has affected everybody, not only in Ghana. It's a worldwide issue. How optimistic are they of their chances on the international markets? Because I know definitely the local market is off the table.
So the indication they give is that this is actually money that they've secured already. The agreements have actually been reached. The banks that are financing this particular facility are making it available. All that was required is parliamentary approval. So from the communication that COCOBOD gave to Parliament, there are no issues in terms of the chances of the money not coming. The additional concern that farmers raised, that MPs raised, actually had to do with the fact that if even this money comes in terms of the right price that Ghana may get on the international markets, as far as when these produce are sold, is what one needs to look at and ensure that they increase processing locally, so the situation is avoided where they export in the raw state and foreigners determine how much it's bought for, and create a situation where we'll get lower prices and COCOBOD may not be able to raise enough money in order to pay back this particular.
All right, Joseph, thank you so much. But we'll stay a little longer on that issue. And financial economist, Business School, College of Humanities, University of Ghana, Dr. Lord Mensah is also joining me via Zoom for more. Grateful for your time this evening, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and good evening to our viewers.
All right, good evening, sir. I mean, yes, COVID. Should we be worried about the interest on this loan?
Well, I don't see any cause of worry here because of the kind of bond that is being issued and the cash flows that, will be paying these bonds over the years. Now, bonds are issued against certain anticipation of cash flows. And here with cocoa, the cash flows are the export that we get from cocoa beans. And obviously, the market is open for such, products. So I don't see any cause of worry. When it comes to cocoa, you realize that even the COCOBOD is able to raise, funds on the international market at a lower rate compared to even the government of Ghana. So for sure, the investor confidence is in that area. And so I don't think we'll have any cause to worry. That rate of LIBOR plus a margin of around less than 2% is what I'm looking at for the coupon rate, and for me, that shouldn't be much of a problem as far as raising.
Doctor, you mentioned why do you think that the rate in the domestic market, I mean Ghana, is more higher than on the foreign front? What are some of the reasons for that?
Yeah, the reason being that, you see, if you take government of Ghana, when government of Ghana is going to borrow money, you realize that the government has a lot of responsibilities, and the cash flows generated by government through taxes and all those has a lot of, activities going on it. But then the Eurobond is a yearmark, the cocoa funds are kind of yearmark funds. And so whatever cash that is being generated is more assured compared to what the government generates. And so obviously, if you are an investor and you are giving your money to, and cocoa is something that we consume every day. It's something that on daily basis, the demand is there. So there's no way an investor will be giving you money that he will be uncomfortable in releasing the funds.
All right, Doctor, what do you make of, yes, Doctor, because of time, I mean, what do you make of the minorities' concerns? And a lot of people have shared similar sentiment about, I mean, doing this for years and COCOBOD having to always go borrowing. Why can't they raise their own funds, especially when we have a larger market? We've been doing this for a long time.
I think this has been the norm over the years. I mean, where we normally borrow against anticipated export that we're supposed to do for our cocoa beans. And I don't think the trend will change now because COCOBOD has not been able to give us that kind of opportunity to be a business, to generate enough so that they can have reserves when it comes to times like this to buy their own cocoa from our own market. So obviously, it's something that we need to look at. It is a good call. Going forward, maybe in the next 10 years, that is what we should be targeting. Because if you borrow against the cash flows that cocoa beans will give you in the future, sometimes it comes with some costs, and that cost, we can avoid it if we have on our own reserves. And the cost is the interest that we pay. All right, Dr. Lord Mensah, I'm very grateful for your time. But some commodity business news now, and Brent crude sold for $45.22 a barrel. Precious mineral gold is still shining, trading today at $1,948.51 an ounce. That'll be all for business this evening. I am Sandra, and I'm going to log on to myjoyonline.com/business for more business news updates. Please stay home, stay safe, and stay beautiful.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the second part of the sports segment here on the Joy News Prime. My name is Oriku Wampofo, and we do start off from some local story where the Ghana Black Princesses, and the Black Maidens will start camping on Friday after a successful workshop for the handlers of the 4 national teams ahead of their camping. Now, the workshop, which was held at the GFA Secretariat for team doctors and essential service providers and welfare officers, paved the way for teams to assemble their international assignments.
The workshop, which was held at the GFA conference room earlier today, was geared towards educating team officials on issues related to COVID-19 pandemic and preventing its spread whilst in camp. The COVID-19 task force was led by Dr. Abuaji Da Costa, leader, risk communication and social mobilization national response COVID-19 team, Dr. Evelyn Ajay Mensah, member of the national case management team, and Dr. Lawrence Lamte, a member of the surveillance team. After the program, Dr. Da Costa, in an interview with Joyce Sports, said it was a success.
It was just an orientation to provide information on the basic protocols to the national lead handlers and also some of their COVID-19 teams, and I think the security governing football, their security team. So we provided them, we took them through the safety protocols and how, they will be able to adhere to those protocols in terms of while they are in camp. As you know, we have eased for the under 17 women and also under 21. So they'll be going to camp this Friday. So it was necessary for us to provide them with this workshop to help them.
Despite the certainty that the national teams can assemble effective Friday, Dr. Da Costa said he will not be surprised if there are cases in camp.
It was really good, and I think that all those who came, per the evaluations they gave us, now do have understanding of what they have to do and the protocols in obviously adhering to those protocols. The principle is that the incubation period of the virus is 2 to 14 days. The virus is in our communities, so it is predicted that certainly some people will go there with the virus. This is why you have to test. But after 14 days, you see that coming down. Remember when we reopened school for the final year students to go, initially there was a surge, but after the 14 days, it started coming down. So we have to take all these, the science and the data into perspective and guide the process, and that is what we are doing. So certainly, I will not be surprised if there is a case, but if there is a case, it will not be a strange thing.
The U17 Women's World Cup, which is taking place in India, is expected to come off February 17 to March 7, 2021.
We still stick to some more local stories where the Chief Executive Officer of Accra Hearts of Oak, Frederick Moore, has reviewed the internal structures put in place to ensure that the safety of their players has been made ready. And according to him, they are monitoring the strategies put in place by the FA and government to safeguard their players ahead of the resumption of football.
The leadership of the Ghana Football Association has been engaging government on the best safety measures to adopt for the return of football. One of the populist resolutions is that football could be played without supporters at match centers. Chief Executive Officer of House of Oak, Frederick Moore, says his club on their own accord have their internal plans for the resumption of the game safely.
There's a possibility that we will start to play with our fans. If vaccination or therapeutics come along, that might change the equation. What I'm aware is that there's a provisional date. The government has not come out to remove sporting activities and all of those things. So it is only a provisional date that they've said. We have been planning, even without the provisional date, in getting our players into a situation where any time that the game is restarted, we can restart.
And that's how we wrap up the bulletin tonight. My name is Aisha. Many thanks for watching PM Express. As up next, please stay tuned in.